let's just do a quick rundown. So we talked last week. We kind of went through the main changes to the site and talked about what we might want to call out as our key points in a launch blog. We need to decide where we want to have that launch blog hosted. Certainly at a minimum, we can have it on our own site. We talked about reaching out to packet pushers and seeing if they would take it also. Derek had taken that action item and then since has decided to step away from the project. So he will not be taking that action item. So I guess the question is whether, Matt, you want to reach out to them or you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, I can do that. That's fine. I'll send Ethan a message.
Okay. All right. I did reach out to, excuse me, Juniper PR about their willingness to support us with the project with a supporting press release. They didn't feel that the changes to the site, although useful for users, would constitute a noteworthy or press-worthy bit of news. So that while they will support, from a social standpoint, amplifying anything that we choose to do, they didn't recommend a supporting press release from a Juniper standpoint.
I think we should put in a bunch of machine learning and AI terminology in our in our press release, and I think we will get them to turn the ship around. I think on that.
You might be right. You might be right. Let's see. So I just need to write this down in a formal go-to-market plan of record. So that's my job for this week. And Matt, you probably have a few more updates from last week as well from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, I'll do the typical updates on the few things on the agenda item. Let me figure out how to share my screen. Oh, I forgot what workspace I had this in. There we go. Okay. So, yep. So back to the relaunch plan. We're again moving pretty well, actually. Again, since the Batovi work is done, it's kind of all just it's just a matter of getting through the items. I spent yesterday looking at this item, which I'll talk about here shortly. So this is done. I'll talk about the conclusion to this. The old, the benchmarking the old guacamole approach versus the new Xterm.js. The performance is better, but we may not be able to see specifically why or how in our example. We might just need to rely on other people's studies, which are a close approximation. So I'll get to that in a second. Really, honestly, the big thing for me now is working on the curriculum content that's due in the Energy Labs 1.0.1 release. There are, of course, some to-dos prior to our creation of those of the release for those two items. But these are all pretty standard. In fact, I don't even think I'm going to be able to. I don't even think I'm going to take on most of these, or some of these rather. Like I said, the benchmarking thing is done. I'm probably going to punt the use of our themes in the forum site for later, for after the launch. So I just wrote it down here because I figured it was a good idea, and it is. I think it should get done so we can continue to unify our web properties. But that's definitely not something we have to do before the launch. It's kind of fine as is. We'll do that for maybe the phase 4. On the subject of the forum, I did not have this in the update, but I mentioned on last stand-up we were migrating the site to the new domain, and that is done. So if you go to if you go to community.network reliability of engineering, you'll actually get redirected to this. Yeah, and it was a pretty painless event. It turns out the DNS for the record for this actually already existed. I just needed to tell. I had the forethought when I was setting up the new domain Terraform resources that I set up this subdomain in advance. So all I had to do was tell Discourse about it. There's a place in the admin panel you can just say change my domain, and so I did. And then I added redirects. Those are the two things I needed to do. So there's redirects in place. If you go to the old site, you'll still go here. But yeah, the new one is discuss.enerylabs.io. Much shorter, and hopefully that will be felt for a while, because community is a long word in and of itself. Never mind appending it to network reliability to engineering. Anyway, shortening domains is dope. So yeah,
I think that's a very quotable thing right there.
shortening domains is dope. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, mostly these are, I mean, I don't want to downplay the work that's left to do. It all definitely still needs done for the most part. Updating the site, making sure all the copy's good. There's a few links that are old and things like that. Finishing, the new docs page is of course important, but these are all, again, these are all sort of known things. I don't have any worry about getting these done in the next few weeks. The thing that I want to get done earlier than that, which leads me into the two development milestones, is the release for the Antidote platform, which I can't believe I didn't link to in this. This is rough. I wish I'd linked to them, but the curriculum release, which is the big thing, and the platform release, which is not there, it's here. Platform release is probably going to be easier because, like I said in last week's call, and I still need to clean this up, there's a lot of Antidote ops tasks in here that don't need to be, so I'll just remove those. These two PRs, I haven't really added more commits to these because it seems like everything's kind of working the way that I want, so I would expect that I'll be able to merge these two PRs to fix all of the sort of issues that we've discovered since deployment. I'll probably be able to merge those like within the next few days, because like I said, I haven't really touched them in a while and it seems like everything's working the way that I want. So merging those into master and then redeploying the master code and making sure that works is good. One thing we're waiting for Botovia, and I'll send an email today to double check the status of this, because it should be done very soon. I'm hoping, is the fix for the bug on the hamburger menu on mobile. It's really the only thing that we absolutely need to fix from a platform perspective before we ship it. So I'd like to get that done within the next few days. Then of course the curriculum, as I mentioned, is the other one. This is going to take more work, but we're making great progress actually. The 3 new lessons that we want to have for this release, since it's 1.1.0, we want to have new content. And those 3 lessons are the revamped Git lessons. So I literally started pushing commits to this, early last week, and I've been writing a lot of content there. That's going to have at least 3 stages worth of content. And the reason I hesitated was I'm trying to figure out if the existing platform HTTP presentation is sufficient enough to throw a GitLab endpoint in there that shows the web UI. The problem with that is GitLab takes a long time to start up, and so I'm trying to invest some time into figuring out how to shorten that. If we could start it and then save a copy of the database somewhere locally and then put that into a Docker container. I don't know. But if worse comes to worse, I'll just cut it off at that stage and not include GitLab, and we'll add that stage in a future release. That's also very easy to do. So Git lessons 1. The other thing is the Ansible for networking lesson, which is actually something that we're working on in conjunction with Red Hat. It's working on the site in its current state. It doesn't do much because my goal for this week was to just get an image where it's running, where it's actually functioning and running an Ansible playbook. But that Ansible playbook doesn't really do much. All it does is it sets them, it configures the login banner on a Junos device, which it does successfully. And I actually really like the font here. By the way, I'll make that comment. The font and the color of the terminal, instead of having it be the font that was like really kind of big actually with the black background, this looks a lot more natural. Anyway, this lesson works. It obviously needs a lot more content than this. It needs to be more than just running a few commands, but the technical bits are there. So that's the second lesson. The third lesson is revamping the REST APIs lesson. So I haven't really done much there yet because that's been sort of the last thing I wanted to do, but that'll get done this week. And I don't see it in the. Oh, this is the platform release. I'm sorry, I went to the wrong. release. There we go. Finish REST APIs lesson. So yeah, that's there. And then fixing all of the other issues. These are easier to fix. These two issues are actually kind of joined to the hip. Olivier pointed out a few weeks ago that it'd be nice to just only start, one VQFX node, because you don't need like 3. You're just exploring the REST API on a VQFX, so there's no need to start 3 of them, which he's correct. So I'll downgrade that in the REST APIs lesson, and then a bunch of other fixes like
Excuse me.
fixing the load function in the YAML lesson because it's throwing a warning right now. Things like that. Things that are pretty easy to fix that just need to get done. So this is going to be pretty much my focus. I view this as the sort of the long tent pole. It's the thing that's kind of still standing out as the thing that's going to take the most work. So I'm going to be focusing almost entirely on this until it gets done. Cool. So that's the relaunch. Those are the release updates. The CFP for ONES is open until February 3rd. I am going to do, I think we should submit something for this. I will send a note out on Twitter as well as the forum and say, hey, does anybody want to submit an NRE Labs talk to this? I think it's, I don't remember what date the conference is at.
It's in early April.
April, got it.
Yeah, in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so the CFP is open to February 3rd. I will send a note out now. I will submit to this if nobody else does, but I would like somebody else to submit to it, and we'll do our best to support that effort, obviously, including possibly even going out there. I know Juniper has some presence there, so it probably won't be that hard for at least one of us to get out there to support whoever's talking. But of course, minimally, if nobody takes this up, I can take it up. Last thing, Lisa and I have been talking about ways to sort of really articulate the benefits of some of the changes that we've made to the website. One of those is moving away from guacamole. Guacamole has been a problem for a number of reasons, and one of those reasons is performance, especially on mobile. If you get on a really poor connection, guacamole kind of shows its ugly side, where it tends to not perform very well, and it's really hard to describe what I mean there unless you actually use it on like a mobile connection or a poor internet connection. It just gets really sluggish, and it becomes unnatural. It doesn't feel like you're typing into a natural terminal. It feels like you're typing into a website on a poor internet connection, which is not the experience we want. We want it to be a good experience. So the blog post I have up here is linked in the notes, and it's titled HTTP versus WebSockets, a performance comparison. So I actually did some work. I tried to figure out a way if I could get some performance figures from Guacamole, as well as our new Xterm.js-based application for Antidote Web. I was able to do some things, and the work that I put in is probably going to be much more useful when I finally get around to writing a framework for testing our lessons, which is something I've wanted to do literally since we launched NRE Labs. So it's not wasted effort, but I decided not to go down the rabbit hole from a performance perspective, because I feel that the numbers shown in this blog post are actually pretty accurate. And the reason for that is because I think the main reason we're going to be getting better performance out of the new solution is because we're using WebSockets. Xterm.js is definitely a more modern approach. There's definitely architectural differences between the two that make Xterm.js and WebSSH a better way to go. But the real big reason why, the very first reason why it's going to be a better performing solution is because we're not using full HTTP requests for every keystroke. That's going to be that we would have seen a massive performance improvement even if we had stayed with Guacamole and went with WebSockets, because that's possible on Guacamole. The reason we didn't, the main reason I didn't even look at that is because the docs for doing that are not great, and there are other architectural reasons why we didn't want to stick with Guacamole. So it's a good reason we're moving, but I think the main performance boost actually is going to come from the fact that we're changing from this old request per keystroke architecture, which is really heavy-handed, frankly, to using WebSockets, which means it's a persistent. For those that know what WebSockets is, it's a persistent connection. So it's a one connection for the entire terminal. And then when you send a keystroke, it just sends the small amount of data needed to send that keystroke, not a full HTTP request. And it scroll past all of the code. This is just showing you how to replicate the test that they did. But if you run, if you look at this blog post, you can see some of these statistics. Request duration might be kind of useful. I mean, obviously, if you're running, something like Socket.io, which is what we're running, which is good because that makes this test even more relevant to us. That might be useful. One of the things that I thought was very useful was this data transfer statistic. So if you're using an HTTP request, it needs a lot more data than a simple WebSocket request. So if you connect via WebSocket and you send a keystroke, the data you're sending is like a 1/7 or an 1/8 of the size. And again, on a mobile connection, that actually matters. Not only just from a data use perspective, but that transmitting that amount of data takes time. And if you've got to transmit 8 times the data per keystroke, you're going to feel that. It's just going to be something you feel. The other thing is requests per second. Not crazy worried about this because we're not really, unless you can type like an absolute champ, you're not going to be hitting many things here. Again, all things being equal, you're not going to be pushing the boundaries of either HTTP or WebSockets. The main thing will be the latency induced by the data transfer, the amount of data you're sending, as well as a few other things. So, but it's clear though, because you can parallelize WebSocket connections that it's just generally faster. Anyway, I will leave it at that. This is, I think, a good benchmark for us to just sort of refer to generally and say, look, we're changing to this new architecture. This company that runs this project, I don't even know anything about this product, Feathers. They put some effort into benchmarking the two, and it looks like they're using the same technology we are on the back end. So I'm pretty comfortable saying, it's gonna be X faster. I don't know if it's 8 times faster. I would say at least 5 times faster would be good.
Where are they saying that?
I'm guesstimating based off of this little graph here.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, it's going to be a gut check, and I was being pretty conservative with that one. So I would say this is pretty close to what we would observe. And you can and to be honest, like if you go onto the old site, you tether to your phone and you go to the old site and then you go to the new site, it's pretty obvious. Like you can just tell. You can tell the difference. I don't know if you've ever done like VR, but if you get into like a virtual reality headset and like the computer's not up to snuff or something like that, and so the refresh rate is not great, like it drops a few frames. Like anybody that doesn't understand VR or hasn't used VR would say, "Oh my God, that's not a huge deal. So what if you drop a few frames? So
I
what?"
can see that. No, I've never done VR, but it sounds really disorienting.
It actually literally makes you sick, and this is not that severe, but it's the same kind of thing. If I'm describing the performance difference in words, it's like woo. You know what I mean? It's really hard to get somebody excited about WebSocket efficiency. But when you're on the keyboard and you're relying on this to feel like a natural experience, it matters a lot. So it's really hard to describe with numbers and words. It's one of those things where you just you have to have seen how bad it got if you're gonna appreciate how good it's getting. So
All right.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
All right. All right. Well, I think that's it for today. And look, we filled almost half an hour.
Woohoo! Alrighty, I will end the meeting and we'll upload this. This will be an easy edit.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Hey, ciao.